There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Along with me, Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Howdy.
Got some cool news. I am a grandfather again for the fifth time.
Congratulations.
My beautiful little grandson, Declan James, was born yesterday. He is with us, amongst us. Very exciting. Today is the 14th birthday of my beautiful daughter, Ripley.
Oh, happy birthday, Ripley.
Yeah, this is crazy because you've been going through the archives of our show.
Yes.
Getting them up, and that was first season, is now up. Every episode we were able to recover from first season of Darkness Radio is up and available through the Stitcher podcast programming, and you'll find it on any of the different podcast venues you go through. So if you scroll back to the furthest, you'll find all those original episodes.
I should say time out. Every episode of the first season. Did you say every episode of the first season? Because the way I understood it, you said every season is up, but every season is not
I
up.
said
okay.
every episode
of the
that
first
we were
season.
able to recover from first season is up.
Yeah.
There were a couple here and there that have been hard to find, but Tim has done great work and worked with so many of you listeners out there who've sent in episodes that you downloaded and saved 14, 15 years ago. So is
Actually,
season one complete?
Actually, yeah, I was going to say every episode of the first season is there.
So we found the John Zaffis episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's great. I know we were missing it a year or so ago, so that's great news.
Yeah.
So every episode from our very first season, and you'll be able to hear how this show has morphed and changed as we went along. I certainly was trying to be much more Tom Brokaw during the first season, and I listened to some of those. It's funny because, all right, Tim, today we're going to be talking with Jason Hawes from TV's Ghost Hunters. It's very kind of held back, and it's, it'll be fun to kind of listen to how the show works and blossoms through the years together.
You know what's funny?
Many personalities that have been a part of it.
If I can add in here too, because I've right now, if you scroll backwards in your list, it doesn't matter what app you use, Darkness Radio app, Stitcher app, if you're using Apple Podcasts, whatever you're using, if you scroll backwards into your app, you'll see this list start to get huge, bigger and bigger as you go backwards. And it'll tell you, 13 years ago, 14 years ago. It'll give you a timestamp of when these episodes first originated, because I'm able to backdate the episode. So as these episodes come up, you'll hear Dave go from, as he said, Tom Brokaw, and somewhere around, I'd say, maybe August, September of 2006, he goes from Tom Brokaw to whatever, blah, 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 and he starts really loosening up. And by the time he hits January of 2007, he starts getting really jokey. So, and you can, it gets good. It gets good right around January 2007. So,
Not that the other episodes aren't good.
They're very good. And actually they're quite, I have to get myself to go, you know what, you need to stop listening, dummy, and get going on this. Cause I find myself dropping into the middle of some of these episodes and start, getting sucked into listening to them again. And, I just go, you know what, I gotta get moving on this. Because there was some really fascinating episodes in that first and second season there. And I get wrapped up in, as we lost Rosemary Ellen Guiley, you realize what a treasure she is. And you start listening to some of the things she brought to the program, and we had her on quite a bit that first and second season. And so I'd listen to a lot of the programming of her and having John Zaffis on and just some of the great guests we had on. I mean, we had a Hall of Fame roster that first and second season. It was a who's who of greatness on that first and second season. And so I sit there and go, wow. I mean, it was a home run almost every episode. So.
And we had some funny, fluky, weird things like our very first episode with Jason Hawes. And, but there's some great stuff. I don't want to get into memories right now because our 15-year anniversary is coming up, and we'll probably do more of that on that show and talk about some of the stuff that's come up. But now that you've had a chance to refresh your memory on some of the old stuff, it'll be great to hear from you on which episodes kind of stand out. Now, speaking of, let's give some people, if they're looking for some key episodes from season 1, we want you to listen to them all. I think you guys are going to enjoy all the original episodes. Because remember, we're talking to the Ghost Hunters right after their first season or two. So we're like right in the beginning of their career as well, and other famous paranormal investigators. So you get to hear them progress. But what were some of your key episodes from season 1 that pop up to you that you think people should definitely key in and check these out?
Well, even let's say season 1 into season 2, because I'm now into season 2 or 2007 as I'm uploading. But season 1, there's 2 shows with Rosemary Ellen Guiley. One where she's talking about dreams, the other where she's talking about vampires that are very good. I don't know if you remember this, but we had in season 1, we had Eileen Dietz on. Oh, sure. She was the Pazuzu, and she was in Reagan's stand-in for The Exorcist. Right. And that was a fascinating episode as well. I mean, that was kind of a little bit of a gem inside all of these great shows that we had in there, and a fascinating episode of that. It's called Hauntings on The Exorcist is what I had renamed it, with Eileen Dietz. And it's so her name is in the title. You can find it there. In that episode is in there. And just a haunting episode at that. Don't we introduce Chip Coffey in season 1 as well? Yes, Chip Coffey's episode is right around there at that time with Eileen Dietz. Chip Coffey's episode is right around that time as well. So he comes in that episode, or actually that's actually 3 or 4. No, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 episodes, or 5 episodes down from that episode with Eileen Dietz. Cool. And that's the introduction of Chip Coffey. As a matter of fact, we did that episode with him, and he kind of blew the two of us away so much that when the production company of Paranormal State reached out to me, they're like, we need help finding a good medium, somebody that can help us on these cases. I said, you got to talk to this guy, Chip Coffey. And that's what launched his paranormal TV career. Episodes with like Troy Taylor. All right. Yeah. I mean, there's some gems in there too. Peter James is in that first season. Yeah. There's a 2-hour episode with Peter James that is absolutely, when you hear his voice, it's kind of like a comforting blanket. When you hear it. Peter James is a world-renowned psychic medium. He was featured on so many shows during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He was the resident medium aboard the Queen Mary. And he was so proficient in communicating with the spirits and getting them to speak out loud so people could hear these spirits. It's pretty remarkable. So yeah, I totally forgot that was season 1. And there's one last one I want to throw at you, and you're going to go, oh yeah. And this episode absolutely enthralled me. And when I heard it, I almost had to listen to the entire episode when it came up. Do you remember an episode with Richard Salva called Soul Journey from Lincoln to Lindbergh? Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. It was he talks about believing that Abraham Lincoln reincarnated into Charles Lindbergh. Exactly. Yeah, that was a great story. That was. So I had to go back and I had to listen to that episode. I just thought it was just fascinating. So those were a few of the highlights. I mean, we had Denise Jones on with John Zaffis. talking about the real Sixth Sense, the movie The Sixth Sense. So we talked about
right. Denise's son was the inspiration, even though M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong refuses to admit it.
Yep.
She has all the articles of her son's story, including the little tent he had in his room that he would use as his safety place.
Yep.
And it's pretty compelling. Articles that predate the Sixth Sense movie. The story is like ripped right out of that. So it's pretty compelling stuff. So that's all season 1 of Darkness Radio. And you could scroll back through the archives and find those episodes. We understand this transition's been a little goofy. There's been some hiccups, but Stitcher is working diligently to make sure everything's on track and back online and ready to go for everybody. So thank you for all that are hanging in with us. Please share the show. You've got friends, you've got social media, share the episodes, let people know about our show, and especially the fact they can get the free edition, no ads included, and it's all out there and available for them.
Yeah, just listen to a few ads, and then you can enjoy all that paranormal goodness. And I tell you, there are some real gems there. You'll start hearing it, and man, it'll knock your socks off. It's good stuff.
Speaking of knocking your socks off, I've been talking about this episode coming up tomorrow of the Holzer Files since the series rebooted this year with season 2. Tomorrow night, Final Word premieres at November 19th at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central Time. Hans Holzer visited Ohio's Franklin Castle many times, each time experiencing terrible technical difficulties and never able to pinpoint the exact cause of the strange happenings that were plaguing the owners of the house for years. Now I get to return with Cindy Kaza and Shane Pittman, and we witness this troubled spirit manifest before our eyes. But the biggest discovery is something Holzer missed himself. And we restore this kind of jumbled audio recording to find a hidden voice and the key to the castle's haunting. This is one of the most powerful of the episodes this season. It's by far not, I'm not saying don't watch the other ones, but if you're going to watch one episode of the Holzer Files this season, please watch tomorrow night. It's very powerful to me on many different levels. My daughter is a part of the episode, Ripley, so it'll be interesting. It's playing right after her birthday, but she's a part of the episode. We've got what I believe to be one of the best captures of paranormal evidence on any show. It's really cool. It's exciting and emotional. This is a tough show. Because it was an episode, we find out that this little girl that's been seen and experienced by many children that have been there passed away from complications due to diabetes. And we turned out that we were filming that on the second anniversary of when I almost lost my daughter Ripley to complications to diabetes. It was bad. It was touch and go in the hospital, and we almost lost her. And I got very emotional and felt very I don't know, just very ensconced in this episode more than any of the others, just because of that connection as a father and this little girl spirit seeking her parents. So it's a really powerful episode. I hope you guys will check that out for yourself. And then remember, right after the episode airs, you can join me over on my Facebook page or on the Darkness Radio YouTube page. And I mean, immediately after the episode airs on Travel Channel, I go live with Holzer's Ghosts, which is a special presentation from Darkness Radio where we're going to talk about the episode. We're going to go a little deeper. I've got some really cool insights and stories about the episode that didn't make it into the episode because, again, we only get 42 minutes to tell a story, but there are some compelling aspects to this story. And my special guests are Alexandra Holzer, the daughter of Dr. Hans Holzer, and we're going to be joined by Karen Dahlman, who is a Ouija board expert and is very proficient in communication with the Ouija board because we do an interesting experiment, something that has never been tried before on any of the paranormal shows. And I wanted to do something different. And she was kind of my guide through that. So she'll be a part of the show. And then for those of you that listen to Darkness Radio regularly, that episode is available Friday in audio form. So it'll be up ready for you to listen and listen along with Fridays. So that's what's going on. Some cool stuff, exciting times. Let me do a quick review, Tim.
Sure.
Blumhouse is knocking it out of the park, man. This COVID thing, I think they're releasing some of the horror movies that we've been wanting to see, and some that maybe they were not sure that they wanted to put in theaters, but this is a great venue for them to start streaming them on places like Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I love the movie The Craft that came out. I think it was in the 90s, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Nev Campbell, Fairuza Balk, and Robin Tunney are three of the main famous actors that were a part of that series. And it's about, these four teenage girls that come together to create a coven and what happens. Well, The Craft Legacy is a sequel, not a reimagining, not a re-engineering, not a prequel. This is a direct sequel to that movie, but it doesn't really feature any of the original cast members. It's a really great story. I thought it was a fun movie. It was an interesting take on it, and he kind of leads you down one path and then, takes a sharp left turn, and then you start to feel comfortable again, and then it goes off course. This is not just a rehash of the first movie. This is an inventive new telling of a cool story of four girls interested in witchcraft coming together and what ties them together and what makes them separate. And it's a fun movie as well. There's a lot of really clever bits and interesting dialogue, well acted throughout, and some surprises along the way. So you're going to want to check that out. The Craft Legacy. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, because it's one of their big budget movies that they were going to release to the theaters, it's got a price tag to it. It's about $19.99 to rent the movie. But I watched it with my wife and two of my daughters and my daughter-in-law. So, $5 a head. We were in, let's check this out. We would have paid that gladly at the movie anyway. So I thought it was a great value. You could certainly wait a little longer till it hits, streaming services or Redbox. But if you're looking for a good movie right now, I would highly recommend The Craft Legacy by Blumhouse. It's a fun movie. And I'd say out of 5 stars, Tim, I would give it a solid 4 stars. 4 stars, maybe 3 9/10 of a star. But, it's just push it to 4. I'll round it up at that point. Now, with that said, there's another movie that's coming back into the headlines. A banned horror movie from 2011 is trending on TikTok, Tim.
Really?
Are you familiar with the service TikTok, the little app?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, a horror film once banned around the world has found a resurgence through social media platform TikTok. Megan is Missing is a movie that's nearly a decade old, but has recently found fame through the platform after a number of high-profile users watched it for the first time. The film deals with the horrors of social media and internet culture, and its creator has warned first-time viewers not to watch the movie alone in the middle of the night. So here's kind of everything you need to know about it. Megan is Missing is a 2011 psychological horror film written and directed by Michael Goy, who has since gone on to write and direct episodes of American Horror Story and Netflix Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. The film, which is shot in a found footage style similar to that of Paranormal Activity or The Blair Witch, was highly controversial at the time of its release. It was actually filmed 5 years prior to its theatrical release. Megan is Missing was banned in New Zealand, where the country's Office of Film and Literature Classification said the public release of this film could be injurious to the public good. Just that line there makes everybody want to go watch this now, right?
You would think, yeah.
The film was panned by critics, not just for its poor acting — the majority of the cast were inexperienced or first-time actors — but also for the graphic violence enacted upon its child protagonists. It's kind of an exploitative nature and the over-sexualization of teenagers. But I don't think, I think it's a cautionary tale, to be honest with you. And sometimes you got to crack an egg to make an omelet. And I say that reluctantly because I have daughters. I have kids. And this movie is exploitative in a sense, but it's a real fear because this isn't just horror movie machinations. This is something that's really going on out there. And that makes it uncomfortable. Now, after reading this article, I called my daughter in and I'm like, did you watch Megan is Missing? Because she loves TikTok, and she kind of hung her head and said, yeah. And I said, what'd you think of it? She goes, it's really disturbing and creepy. She goes, it's not really well acted, but you get past that because, again, kind of, you want that, you're giving up that suspension of disbelief anyway, right? Because it's a movie. She said it was chilling, and it was kind of an eye-opener to some of the dangers of social media and the internet, and made her even think twice. So despite its horror film trappings, Megan is Missing was actually marketed as an educational film that could help viewers understand the risks to which children and young adults are exposed online. It tells the story of this disappearance of Megan Stewart, who is a very popular high school student in North Hollywood who decides to meet up with the boy that she met online. And according to the promotional materials, Megan is Missing is assembled from video chats, webcam footage, home videos, and news reports. But while the film was based on a series of real-life cases of child abduction, the footage in the film is all scripted and shot using actors. I don't get to give you the customary warnings that I used to give people before they watched Megan is Missing, said Goy in his own TikTok response to the film's reemergence. Do not watch the movie in the middle of the night, and do not watch the movie alone, the director said. If you see the words photo number 1 pop up on your screen, you have about 4 seconds to shut off the movie if you're already kind of freaking out before you start seeing things that maybe you just don't want to see. Now, that's going to, of course, entice even more people to want to watch this, right? It's not entirely clear why the film has begun trending again in recent days. The raised awareness of the film likely comes in the wake of a number of high-profile TikTok users making posts about their experiences watching the film for the first time. I've never been more triggered or traumatized by something in my entire life, one viewer wrote. This world is so effing disgusting, I can't stop crying and I feel sick to my stomach. If you haven't watched it yet, please don't. It's horrifying. Another user said the film had them all staring at the wall and wanting to delete all my social media accounts and never come back again. Another poster described the film as absolutely horrible and repugnant and warned viewers not to watch it without reading its Wikipedia page first. How bad is it? According to IMDb's Parents Guide for the film, Megan is Missing is extremely intense and very hard to watch. It features sex scenes and discussions with actresses playing underage girls, including a rape scene, which is very intense and drawn out. This movie has serious subject matter and should not be seen by people who are easily upset by films. At the time of the writing of this article, Megan is Missing does not appear to be readily available through streaming sites in the UK or in the United States. I guess people have been finding it on YouTube. I asked Pacey, I said, you saw this, how did it impact you? She said, well, it was really chilling and heartbreaking to see what happens, and it certainly gives you pause. So as I'm irritated that she went and watched a movie like that on her own. I think it might have actually done her some good, because I think it gave her the concept that there are some real dangers out there. Yeah. And we need to be careful with the things that we do and what we make ourselves available to. So I think it's getting its point across to a degree, wrapped in this kind of horror, true crime themed deal. It's not paranormal in any way, any nature of it. But I can't review it. I haven't seen it. My daughter said it's interesting and disturbing. I said, would you recommend other teenagers or their parents to watch it? And she said, yeah, but it was that kind of, I think they should be aware that this is based on real crimes and real things like this are happening.
I know you're a little trepidatious about her watching it, but much like when we were kids, I mean, there's stuff that we probably shouldn't have been watching too at that time that we managed to get a hold of and managed to watch. The thing that comes to mind with me, and it's probably no comparison, but like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, was one of those deals that we probably shouldn't have watched it at the time.
Or Faces of Death.
Or Faces of Death. Yeah, that's another one that we probably shouldn't have been watching that we did. But in the end, you find out why exactly you shouldn't have been watching it at the time when you did. And you'll learn the lesson. Not saying it was a good lesson to learn at the time or necessarily a lesson that you should have learned in the way that you learned it, but you end up learning the lesson nonetheless. And it's probably good that you did have that communication with your daughter at the time too. And that you had that type of relationship where you can communicate. I do feel bad if there is a parent out there who does have a kid who you don't have that kind of relationship where you can't talk and that kid does go down that rabbit hole after watching that movie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So check it out if you're interested. Megan is Missing. Like I said, forewarned that it is disturbing, and maybe watch it first before showing your teenagers. I don't know, hearing how graphic it is, I don't know that I would have shown my daughter, but then on the other side of it, you're kind of like, do I want her to realize the real terrors of this and kind of give you that shock and awe? Because I don't think, kids, we were the same way. When you're a teenager, you're a kid, you don't really see the dangers. Yeah. It's always kind of like, but that's not going to happen to me, or I would never fall for that. And then, you see these exposés all the time where, oh no, I train my kid, they know better. And then sadly they wander off and, somebody comes along and says, oh, can you help me find my puppy? And they're off like a shot with this stranger. So we're all infallible at that time. We all feel like we're superheroes and can't be harmed, but you have to sometimes ground yourself to remember the importance of this. Hey, let me remind people, send us in your stories if you have paranormal encounters that you'd like us to feature in Theater of the Mind, as we've been playing a few older Theater of the Minds over the last couple of weeks. If it's a well-written narrative, we'll read it and add the sound effects and music behind it and help flesh out the story. We'll start airing those in January, so you'll get brand new editions of Theater of the Mind going forward. And I hope that you'll tune in to check those out and enjoy it as you have in the past. You can call me and tell me your story. We'll share that on air at 651-300-4977 with our Voices from Beyond voicemail. You can email me your stories if you just want to tell us a short version of the story. You can always email them to me at dave@darknessradio.com, and we'll read them on air. But like I said, if you want to take a little bit more effort and you write a 2 or 3 page story of what occurred and happened to you, we'll feature it. Like this email. Hi, Dave and Tim. Love your show and became a Stitcher subscriber just for you guys. I started to listen to your show when I was still young and maybe beautiful. Anyway, I was just listening to season 1 of your show, and it took me back on memory lane. Back then, I was 19 and living in Italy. I have been invited by a friend to join the OTO chapter in the town I was living in. As a normal process, I was invited as a guest, which meant I was able to attend their talks regarding certain esoteric topics as well as certain rituals. I attended 3 rituals they performed, of which only 2 resulted in strange experiences. The first one had to do with invoking the spirit of a Viking god. Nothing special happened during the ritual. However, a few nights later, I woke up in the middle of the night. Yes, standing by my bed was a Viking. Of course, this might be discounted as the mind playing tricks on me, but some years later, my ex-wife and I started to play with the idea of moving out of Italy. As soon as we decided to do that, a strange coincidence started happening. I would see the number 333 everywhere I go. Oh, all the evil, half the calories, Tim. 333.
Oh, yeah.
I go on, license plates on the clock, and so on. Being a beer lover, my first, so on and so being, okay, this is a weird juxtaposition talking about seeing this number on clocks and license, and then he jumps to being a beer lover. My first choice was Belgium. Yeah, you guessed it. My ex-wife said, hey, what about Sweden? Needless to say, I have been living in Sweden for the past 13 years, and the amount of bad luck I've faced is ridiculous. The other experience is more paranormal and clear than the first one. I attended the OTO spring solstice ritual, and a weird thing happened. It was a sunny day, but as the preparations for the ritual were on the way, it started to rain. Needless to say, this didn't bother the adepts a bit. As soon as the adepts created a magical circle and started the ritual, it stopped raining in the circle. Being just an observer, I was soaking wet, but the participants didn't have a drop of water on them. Well, these are my stories. I hope you enjoyed them. Best wishes, and that comes from Soren. Soren, thank you very much. If you feel like you still have attachments or something's affecting you, I can try to connect you with Robert Major from Ghost Remover and see. I don't know. That distance is huge, but they might be able to do something remotely to help you. Something to consider. All right, Tim. Since we were talking TikTok, I should jump back into this story.
Okay. A
spooky encounter caught on camera leaves TikTok users disturbed. I've never been more scared in my life. What would you do if you suspected your house was haunted? Well, most people would probably seek refuge elsewhere as soon as possible, or even call in a home exorcist. Yes, they do exist. Because we live in the age of the internet, though, some people, like a TikTok user named Caitlin, will use the paranormal activity to create viral videos in the hopes of blowing up online. On October 12th, Caitlin posted the first of a series of videos from back when she was living in a house she suspected to be haunted. At the beginning of the video, Caitlin is just sitting in bed when she gets up and heads downstairs. As she moves towards the stairs, you can hear very clearly the sound of banging coming from another room. The problem, according to Caitlin, she was the only one home. From the first video alone, people were already horrified. "This is scarier than any horror movie I've ever seen," one person said. "This reminds me of the first Paranormal Activity," another said. The haunting didn't stop there, though. In the second video, Caitlin retreats to her bedroom and closes the door. However, as she sits in her bed, scared and out of breath from running, you can still hear the banging and then footsteps. At the end of the video, the door to Caitlin's room seemingly opens on its own and then slams shut. The third video, though, is where things start to really, really get scary. According to this article, in the video, you can clearly see Caitlin's closet door swing open on its own and then abruptly slam shut. No matter how many times I watch this video, it makes my heart skip a beat. That's what the author says. And I'm not the only one. The only TikTok that has genuinely made my heart race, one person said. "I had to take a deep breath and brace myself." Another one said, "My jaw dropped when the door opened." Another said, "I've never been more scared in my life." The good news is that in her captions, Caitlin noted that she has since moved out of this spooky house. Hopefully, whoever lives there now is taking care of the ghost problem, or at least is charging them rent. We've got a link up to this story so that you can see the videos, all three parts of the videos. And you just go to Darkness Radio, click on the news link, and you'll see today's date. And underneath it will be the news links that we'll share today throughout the program so that you can check it for yourself. You're a fan of like UFC and all of that, right, Tim?
Yeah, MMA stuff, sure.
Yeah. Are you familiar with UFC welterweight Diego Sanchez?
Sure.
He had a UFO encounter in his native Albuquerque, Tim. I like to say Albuquerque. Albuquerque, New Mexico this week. And it sounds pretty wild. Sanchez, who is known as one of the most eccentric and enigmatic fighters in the game, opened up on this paranormal encounter on his Twitter on Wednesday. He says, "I was doing energy work on my patio as a UFO flew right up on me. I called for my daughters quick. She watched this thing hover only hundreds of feet away. Albuquerque is a trip. Sightings are regular here," he says, "but this shit was contact tonight. It was obvious. It was watching me. Today, a powerful portal of light energy is open. If there ever was a night to connect with the universe, tonight is the night. I've been celebrating and connecting all day." Diego Sanchez last fought at UFC 253 in September when he lost to a decision to Australia's Jake Matthews. That loss was preceded by a DQ win over Michael Pereira, a decision loss to Michael Chiesa. The rest is nonsense. It has nothing to do with UFO encounters. But I do have a link up so that you can go and follow Diego Sanchez. You can find this news story as well and follow that so that you know what's going on. And since we're talking UFO sightings, Tim, let's take just a jump to the left and then a step to the right. As we head to Superior, Wisconsin, where residents have seen something that they claim they've never seen before. No, it's not a person with all their own teeth, Tim. Stop thinking that way about our friends in Wisconsin.
I was holding off.
I know, but I can hear it mentally.
I was being good.
A Twin Ports resident says they saw a UFO in their area recently. It all went down in mid-August. I always check the National UFO Reporting Center for UFO and or alien sightings that happen in the Duluth area, but was curious recently as if to the fact that there have been any Superior. To my surprise, there has been one, and it happened over the summer. That's what the author of this article says. According to the report, it happened around 10 p.m. at night and lasted for about an hour. It's described as a light formation in the sky. The resident who reported the sighting says she was inside her house when her husband came inside from outdoors and said he saw a zigzag-like formation in the sky. He even drew it for her on a piece of paper so she could understand it better. Shortly after the first sighting, the reporting party says they both went out back and saw two moving lit-up objects that were going in opposite directions. One seemed like it was jumping forward and then disappeared for a short time. The other went in the opposite direction, according to the report, and then disappeared as well. After nearly 20 minutes, the reporting party says nothing happened. They went into their front yard and saw four more objects in the sky going opposite directions and spaced out a few minutes apart. This is not the only time a UFO sighting has happened in Superior, Wisconsin. In late 2019, one member of the staff of the 92.9 NIN reported seeing UFOs as well. So that's pretty interesting, I mean, that this many people were witnessing this phenomena taking place.
Yeah.
So another good story, strange thing going on. All right. So we've got more news stories to share. We've got more of your personal encounters that have been emailed in. And again, we encourage you, give us a call. Share your story with us on our Voices from Beyond voicemail, 651-300-4977. And if you could do us a favor, please rate and review this program on whatever platform you listen. If you are an iTunes subscriber, Stitcher subscriber, or any number of the other podcast versions out there, if you listen to our show, make sure that you rate and review the show. It really does help us. We'll be back. We've got more to discuss right here on Darkness Radio. We are back. I hope you are having a great week as we are. Tim, lots of stuff happening. Like I said, birth of my grandson yesterday. My daughter Ripley's birthday today, 14 years old. My daughter Kayla, her birthday tomorrow. And then yours truly, Darkness Dave, turns 30 this Sunday, Tim.
Only 30?
Only 30.
Wow.
I'm embracing my age. I'll be 35 okay, maybe not. 53. 53 years old this Sunday, Tim. Yeah. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. 35. 53. Yeah.
Sheesh. Think about it, dude. We met when I was 20.
Yeah.
Just turning 21. And now I'm turning 53.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, I'm turning 53. I really think so. Do. I'm turning 53. Oh, yes, I'm turning 53. I really think so.
You know what I find interesting? We have almost 15 years of archives now to look back on. And every single year you have this angst on audio. You can go back to any year of our archives and you're like, can you believe I'm turning blank? And it, yeah. It's kind of cute.
Now I wish I had those days back.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Yeah.
I do too. I think about the different years and I go, man, I wish I could be that old again. Yeah.
Yeah. 40 years old. I wish I was back there, but I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm 40 years old.
You know what? I heard that episode the other day, episode where you turned 40. You're like, oh my God, Tim, I'm 40. And
how weird is this, right? You listen to those episodes in season 1 in November, you get to hear me talk about the birth of my daughter, Ripley. And here you are 14 years later, getting to hear me talk about her turning 14.
Yeah.
It's been a long journey. And you know what really touches my heart? How many of our listeners have been along with us for this?
Yeah, I know, right?
Entire ride. I mean, we get a lot of people that are into us just new, some because of the Holzer Files and they found us, some because I was on some Ghost Adventures episodes and found us, some that are 6, 7, 8 years listening. And then we've got our key people that have been with us for 15 seasons of the show. And that really touches my heart. So thank you very much for being a part of the world with us and including us in your world. All right. Let's see here. We've got more news stories to share. And I guess, well, damn it, Tim, because I love you, Tim, because I love you, I'm willing, Tim, to share this next story.
Sure.
Makes my stomach hurt. My stomach hurt. Pope Francis is in the news, Tim.
Is he now, Dave?
Yes, he is. He says, deliver us from evil robots. Pope Francis urged Catholics to pray that artificial intelligence and robots always serve mankind instead of stripping humanity of its dignity.
I knew I loved this Pope. I knew I loved him.
In his monthly prayer address, the crusading pontiff warned that while robotics may bring positive changes in the world, it could also exacerbate inequalities across the planet, according to The Verge. Artificial intelligence is at the heart of the kind of change that he's terrified of Robotics can make a better world possible if it is joined to the common good. Indeed, if technological process increases inequalities, it is not true progress, Pope Francis said during his November prayer intention. Future advances should be oriented towards a respecting of the dignity of the person and of a creation. Let us pray that the progress of robotics and artificial intelligence may always serve mankind. We could say, may it be human, he proclaimed. His message may be addressing concerns that an increase in robotic development could lead to job loss, possibly widening the global wealthy disparity gap, which is what I believe he's saying. However, nuts like Tim and some of you listeners believe he's talking about, doom, 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 doom. The rise of Skynet. Doom, 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 doom.
And he is, Dave. I'll have you know, when the pontiff comes over to hang out with me and we...
on wrestling nights to watch a little Raw or some AEW?
Yeah, when we sit down, we watch AEW together and we do a couple of wine shooters and, we throw hosts into each other's mouths. We sit and talk and we talk a little bit about technology, Dave. I sound like an old ad we used to have on the show in 2006. But we sit around in the pontiff and I talk technology, and he says to me, Tim, that's a technology. Someday is going to be a Skynet. It's going to be a dangerous, Tim. You stay away. You don't put the talk of technology into your home. It's going to listen to you. It's going to take over you. It's going to make you a crush under your heel. That's what he says. And I say...
Goes, you don't believe? Listen, Alexa, play for me the truth about the AI. See, he went to AI to get the truth about AI, which gave him an inaccurate truth, Tim.
No, he knows. He's a very smart man, Dave. He's what we call enlightened. And I for one, I give him the slow clap. I mean, not like you would think, clap, but I give him...
Here's some scary bit I will give you.
Sure.
Some other examples of potential tech-fueled inequality include at least 2 wrongful arrests of black men based on a flawed facial recognition algorithm.
See?
The exam results that were allegedly biased against students from poorer backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier this year, the Vatican promoted a document titled Rome Call for AI Ethics, which highlights 6 principles artificial intelligence makers should follow. They include transparency, impartiality, and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could make one that makes me a nice fried a peanut butter and a nana sandwich like Elvis, I'm all down for that. That's right from the Pope himself, Tim.
He's just being fair, Dave. He's just being fair.
Well, since he's being fair, I think it's only fair, boyo, that then I go to this next story. Because you're all worried, and now the Pope is kind of backing you.
Yeah.
I'm backing my boy Tim. I think this is the way to go. No more AI. Let's all do it ourselves. But, Tim?
Mm-hmm.
Zombies.
Yeah.
What? You don't believe me, Tim? This story is only 2 days old. He was a dead man for nearly an hour, yet he lives. Hiker Michael Napinski is inexorably surviving a 45-minute heart stoppage after a dramatic rescue on Mount Rainier, reported the Seattle Times. Inexplicably is the word I tried to say, Tim, that my mind and eyes would not work together on.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
The Woodville, Washington resident had been hiking with a pal on the state's tallest mountain on November 7th when they were separated during a severe whiteout. While Napinski's friend was to traverse on skis, he planned on snowshoeing before reconvening later in the day. I was pretty close to the end of the trail. Then it turned to whiteout conditions, and I couldn't see anything, Napinski told the Times on November 13th. And then I'm not sure what happened. I guess I fell. Michael Napinski, who became lost and amid freezing whiteout condition in Mount Rainier National Park last weekend, was brought back to life in what his medical team is calling a miraculous recovery, reported the Seattle Times. Immediately before falling unconscious, the 45-year-old hiker recalled inching down the mountain blanketed in a frenetic snowstorm. When Napinski didn't return, his friend, who has not been identified, reported him missing, noted Mount Rainier Park officials. It took a helicopter search to locate Napinski the following day in 16-degree weather amid limited visibility, according to the Park Service. Mount Rainier, where Michael Napinski fell unconscious Unconscious, he was then quickly choppered to a Seattle medical center. Despite a pulse, Lipinski would go into full cardiac arrest, recalled Dr. Janelle Badalak. He died while he was in the emergency room, which gave us the unique opportunity to try and save his life by basically bypassing his heart and lungs, explained Badalak. Doctors were able to restart Lipinski's heart after nearly 45 minutes, and he regained consciousness 2 days later. This guy was dead for 45 minutes, Tim. This is how the zombie apocalypse begins. He came back from the dead, stated Dr. Saman Arababi. Maybe not medically quite correct, but his heart wasn't beating for more than 45 minutes. It's amazing. Right until he bites one of you, and then all hell breaks loose.
So listen here, you heathen. Rather than give the credit to God, you're going to give it to zombies?
Zombies, Tim. Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Zombie, hey, hey, ho, ho, ho. Can't help it. It's definitely musical Tourette's, buddy.
My wrestling buddy that comes over on Wednesdays, the Pope, he disagrees with you. Yeah.
Yeah? This is Dave. I'm going to pray for him because he's a mental in the head. Is that what the Pope is saying?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Aloha, Dave and Tim.
Aloha.
I had the craziest thing happen to me last night. I just had to tell you about it. I listened to the episode where you played the Palladian message at the end of the episode. I had heard of the Palladians before when I read a book called The Human Potential. I found it really interesting. I ended up watching a few YouTube videos about it, including one from the same people who made the one you played. But being a busy mom and business owner, I didn't really go much farther than that. Just thought it was cool. That was about a year ago. Well before all of this 2020 nonsense. When I heard the message you played, it reminded me of them, and I started thinking about them again. I really liked the message and what it says they have in store for us. It gave me some hope that we have all been through this year for a reason. So anyway, last night I was closing up the house before bed and noticed that the door to the garage from our house was unlocked. Before I locked it, I wanted to make sure that the garage door was in fact shut. I walked into the garage and noticed how hot it was in there. So I decided to open the big garage door to cool it down a bit before I went to bed. After I opened it up and had the urge to walk outside, I looked up at the bright stars and started thinking about the Palladians again. I decided to talk directly to them in my head as I was looking at the stars. I asked them to show me a sign, like a shooting star if they were indeed real and out there trying to help us. About 30 seconds after I made that request, I saw a bright light out of the corner of my eye on the left side. I turned around and I shit you not, Tim. She shits us not.
Shits us not.
Coming from behind me was a giant duster of about 50 shooting stars. It was not like a meteor where it would be one large light. It literally looked like 50 shooting stars traveling in a pack together. It must have been a meteor that broke up when it entered our atmosphere. It traveled slowly across the sky directly above me in a straight line, and I watched it until it disappeared over the horizon. Once it was gone, it left a huge streak in the sky that looked kind of like a contrail from the plains, if you could see it at night. Of course, I did not have my phone, and I was the only one on my street out there to see it. After it was gone, I immediately ran in the house to get my husband so he could come at least see the enormous trail it left behind in the sky. He was amazed just by the trail and said if it wasn't there, he probably wouldn't have believed me and that it was as big as I said it was. I have never seen anything even close to this in my life, and I didn't expect to again. I can't believe that I was outside to see it at the exact time. It was about the biggest sign you could ever give if you were a Palladian wanting to show me you were real. As soon as I saw it, my jaw dropped, and I immediately started crying because of the awesomeness of it. All I could say over and over again was, oh my God. Seeing one quick shooting star is one thing. Seeing what looks like 50 of them moving together slowly across the sky, simply incredible. I got up this morning and searched for it in our local news website to see if anyone else saw it. And they did. How about that, Tim? Now we throw to the actual article regarding this. This is a Parashare and a news story all within the same.
Wow. Yeah,
the mysterious lights in the sky over Maui on Saturday still have many perplexed, as in to their origin, but astronomers say they believe the lights, in all likelihood, were associated with a re-entry of a used-up rocket booster from a launch in 2008. John O'Meara, chief scientist, WM Keck Observatory, says he believes the lights were from an old rocket booster that launched a Venezuelan communication satellite into space in China back in '08, Tim. Very few locations would have had the vantage point to see that event, making Hawaii viewers, and those on Maui in particular, very lucky to have caught the visual event on Saturday night. That booster has been orbiting around the Earth, but its orbit has been decaying and eventually decayed enough to get slowed down by the atmosphere and re-entered it over the Pacific. Or, Tim, did our listeners plea to the Palladians to show her a sign, create the Palladians to knock this faltering thing out of the sky so that she could see it?
So she said, give me a sign, and the Palladians said, here's some space shit for you.
Yeah, because she shit us not, but they did, apparently.
Of course,
none of the videos and pictures they have even come close to what I saw in person. She said, my street is really dark as well, and there are no tall buildings, so it was super bright. I'm sorry, you were starting to say?
No, I said I get it. It's a wonderful space metaphor.
Space metaphor, yeah.
That's a great band name.
Yeah, Karma says, well, I thought I would share this with you because you said you wanted to hear from us about it. I can tell you, I am a believer now after that experience. Thanks for playing it, reminding me of them. I will reread that book now with a different perspective. Hope you're staying warm in the blizzard conditions, sending some warm Maui vibes your way. Take care. And that comes from Karma Hill. Karma Hill, Tim. Yeah. Karma chameleon.
Yeah.
She came and go, Tim.
That's an interesting experience.
Yeah. Very cool. You're the doubter. I believe you, Karma.
No, I'm not doubting. I'm just thinking it's
Send
an
your hate mail to Tim at darknessradio.com, but don't use AI or he'll freak out about it.
Yeah, don't use your computer when you do it. Type it out on a typewriter. I don't trust you.
Yeah, then send it directly to Tim at 314.
No,
Well, if they're typing it out, Tim, they have to be able to know where to mail it, so I'll just give them your home address at 314.
No. Send it to the shared Darkness Radio mailbox.
Oh, yeah, I forgot we do have one of those. Yeah. You can send us letters. You can send us cards. You could send us gifts. You could send us McDonald's gift certificates so that we could eat McRibs for the entire month of November.
December 2nd.
I will say this. Darkness Dave's birthday is this Sunday, and McDonald's opens up the McRib on the 2nd. Although I'm going to tell you a conspiracy theory, Tim. I don't think the McRibs exist. That's why nobody's seen them in 2 years. I think that this is all a ploy. They knew the world's going to get shut down again by October or by November 30th.
You think?
So let's bring it out December 2nd.
You think
when they can't do it? Either that or I'm going to end up with a COVID that makes me not be able to taste things.
So you won't be able to taste that delicious barbecue sauce, the tangy onions, and those wonderful pickles all together on that corn dusted bun, and you're gonna be COVIDed out. Is that what you're saying?
I'll be right back.
What are you gonna do? I mean, you're gonna
just need me time right now, Tim.
You time right now with a picture of a McRib.
Delicious, juicy, saucy McRib. Speaking of delicious, juicy, and saucy, psychic Uri Geller's in the news.
Oh, my. Well, yeah.
He helped Scotland qualify for their first major football tournament in more than 2 decades, and then invited everyone to his island off North Berwick.
Did he score the goal?
The 72-year-old was among the thousands of fans celebrating after Scotland overcame Serbia in a tense penalty shootout to reach Euro 2021. David Marshall saved Alexander Mitrovic's spot kick after the game had finished 1-1 in Belgrade. However, Geller, who owns the Lamb off the coast of North Berwick, claimed he helped Scotland qualify for a tournament for the first time since 1998. In a clip he posted on social media, the psychic said, "He's going to miss. He is not going to score. I believe in my power. I want to move the balls, but he'll miss." So Uri Geller could have used his mind power to move the ball, but he didn't. He just knew. He willed the team to miss. Former Celtic goalkeeper Marshall pulled off the save to deny Fulham frontman. Geller then said, yes, I love you, Scotland. We did it. I think that's a pretty accurate Scottish accent, if you're asking me.
It's very accurate.
He then tweeted, "I'm inviting you all to my private Scottish island for more inspiration. Come to me in a lamb island." Celebrity spoon bender Geller bought Rocky Outcrop the lamb for £30,000 in 2009, believing it has links to the pyramids at Giza and the Knights Templar. Very cool. So, when I watch TV next time and I call a play in advance for the Vikings, they're going to muff this. I'm going to go on and go, "Hey, everybody, I called it. I knew this was going to happen. Everybody, let's go to Uri Geller's island."
If there's a God in heaven and James Randi made it to the afterlife, what will happen now is that Scottish team will show up on the island, and one of them will leave a double-decker right in one of Uri Geller's toilets. Yeah. Just saying.
Double-decker. You go to dark places, my friend.
Just saying.
Dark dirt hole places. It's really kind of scary, to be honest.
I know.
All right, we have some more news to share, Tim, unless you're, not so happy to share any more news.
Oh, no, I love to share. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you're sure, then let's go here. What's better than Paranormal Activity? How about Paranormal Activity with a nice burger, Tim?
Oh, yeah.
Sooner Paranormal paid a visit to family-owned Dick's on 66 and Sepulpa and captured a few spooky videos in the process. Cameras were placed inside the restaurant overnight and caught the lights flickering on and off. Multiple orbs, Tim, haunted dust particles were captured on security cameras placed in the back room. Another video captured a bizarre strand floating in front of the camera in the dining room. Cobweb. Tim, I'm going to go with cobweb.
Dave, can I stop?
100 people surveyed. Top 5 answers on the board. Cobweb, number 1 answer. What?
Can I stop the story for a minute?
Sure.
Where did they go to eat at?
They went to eat at this restaurant, Tim.
What's the name of the restaurant?
It's a family-owned restaurant named Dick's.
Okay. So
on 66. Dick's on 66, Tim.
Dick's on 66.
Where you can get your Dick's. On 66, yeah.
So are you saying that you walk in there and get a mouthful at Dick's?
Yeah, nothing better than a big, meaty Dick's burger, Tim.
I bet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's what it is.
All right, continue.
Yeah. They also, according to Sooner Paranormal, had multiple conversations and voices that were recorded. Some of these recordings included Ethel and "I can leave" and "I told you not to whisper. Duke was here, and we're dead." Another video captured a bizarre strand floating in front of the camera in the dining room, followed by a growl. I think that was just a tummy.
Was there also a EVP that sounded like this?
Because somebody had a mouthful of Dick's burgers?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I wasn't there. I can't answer that. But we do have that link for that story up, Tim, because you can go watch the video and see for yourself a haunted cobweb and dust particulates in the air.
That is scary.
All that tells me is Dick's on 66 needs a good dusting. I know that sounds rude. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're not. Not at all. Nope.
Robbie Williams can't stand being out of the news, so he's back.
Mm-hmm.
A man has claimed he saw Robbie Williams on a spaceship after being abducted by aliens that were 10 feet tall and wearing uniforms.
Oh, of course.
Russ Kellett, age 57, has told how the pair were taken from Bradford in 1999 just before Robbie showed an interest in extraterrestrial life. Russ told the Daily Star, said, obviously I was thinking, where the hell am I? I looked around and there was someone waiting behind me. I looked at this young man and recognized him. I said, don't I know you from somewhere? And he replied, I don't know. Then I was told, get back in line. I didn't see him again after that, but I'm sure it was Robbie Williams. We only spoke briefly, but it was definitely Robbie Williams. For the past 2 decades, Angels singer Robbie has been intrigued by the paranormal. The Angels singer claims to have spoken to ghosts, been visited by aliens, and even seen strange orbs, Tim.
Not orbs, Dave.
He was convinced they were extraterrestrial life forms.
Mm.
And Robbie, previously treated for prescription drug addiction, joked the incident had nothing to do with any pills. He said, I've experienced phenomena I can't explain. Did you hear what he experienced, Tim?
Do, 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 do.
That's right, phenomena.
Do, 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 do.
He experienced phenomena.
Do, 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 do.
I've seen one right above me.
Yeah, he has.
These floating, glowing balls were right above him. I could have hit it with a tennis racket.
Instead, they landed on his chin.
No substance was involved. He even turned into an alien hunter in a film and visited a ranch plagued by paranormal events. But since he's had 4 children, Robbie says the paranormal isn't interesting to him anymore. Robbie said the strangest thing is that since I've had kids, the phenomena ceased to happen. I'm guessing that once you have kids, they just take up all your energy and your thoughts. I don't know about that, Robbie. Or maybe once you were just getting laid on a regular, you were more interested in that. I could be wrong.
Probably. The only orbs you saw were on someone's chest.
On an UFO, man. Yeah. I've seen Robbie Williams on an UFO.
You know, the guy said, he said, Robbie Williams, don't I know you from somewhere? If Robbie Williams came up and peed on my leg, I don't think I'd know him. I wouldn't.
I'd like to take that challenge. Robbie, I know you listen all the time, buddy. Next time you see Tim Dennis out and about, go pee on his leg. Let's see if you recognize him.
I honest to God don't think I would know him if he came up and peed on my leg. I wouldn't know him from his music. I wouldn't know him from being a nut job. I wouldn't know him.
Hey, Tim, AI coming back at us. Not the same way, though.
Oh,
this next story. You'd get this story from mindmatters.ai.
Mm-hmm.
This was printed on November 14th. A recent profile in astronomy focused on Abraham Loeb, a Harvard astronomer, who is convinced that closed minds are a key barrier to our finding extraterrestrials. Statistically, he thinks they have to be out there somewhere. The question posed at the start of this article, why do people who believe in extraterrestrials dismiss ghosts? So let's see if we can get an answer to that. About 25 billion stars, roughly 1/4 of those that reside in the Milky Way, lie in a habitable zone. He rounds that down to an even 10 billion to keep the calculation simple. And then there are about 1 trillion galaxies like the Milky Way, he says, which means that there are about 1,022 planets in the observable universe that could potentially host life as we know it. In other words, searches for extraterrestrial life have barely scratched the surface. As in other areas of exploratory science, Loeb says, we should investigate thoroughly before making sweeping pronouncements. A prolific thinker, he has, along with collaborators, come up with a number of new ideas about where and how to look and what to look for. For example, he thinks based on astronomical calculations that life is more likely to evolve in the distant future than now. He also uses intriguing forensic approaches to search for extraterrestrials. In 2014, Loeb and 2 collaborators, Henry Lin and Gonzalo Gonzalez Abad, decided to flip the switch. Instead of looking for signs of life, they suggested looking for signs of death, or at least serious contamination. That's an interesting aspect. Anthropogenic pollution could be used as a novel biosignature for intelligent life, wrote the Harvard team, which proposed looking for 2 chlorofluorocarbon gases, tetrafluoromethane, and trichlorofluoromethane that can survive tens of thousands of years and cannot be synthesized by any known process. But then he has also identified as evidence of alien activity phenomena that other astronomers attribute to natural causes. Consider the fast radio bursts, short, powerful blasts of radio waves from space first detected in 2017. The example says, Lingham and Loeb offered a provocative solution to the puzzle. Maybe some of the FRBs are artificial. If that were the case, what would be the purpose of an incredibly powerful radio burst? In a 2017 paper in Astrophysical Journal Letters, Lingham and Loeb raised the 2 possibilities. It could be a beacon to broadcast the presence of an alien civilization, which they deem rather implausible, or it could power large spaceships tugged by even larger, if not in area but in mass, light sails. The optimal frequency for powering the light sail is shown to be similar to the detected FRB frequencies. They write, a fact that when combined with other technological arguments could lend some credence to the possibility that FRBs might be artificial in origin. Naysayers might dismiss this insisting that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Loeb notes, I say that they require evidence, but why should they be held to a higher plane? We should not automatically dismiss explanations because they seem exotic to some people. Let's come back to the naysayers in a moment. Recently, the bursts have been identified as coming from magnetars, highly magnetic neutron stars, not extraterrestrial. Loeb also achieved considerable public prominence for his conclusion, published in Astrophysical Journal Letters in 2018, that a space object discovered in 2017, Oumuamua, was a light sail of artificial origin, that it is an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Is the interstellar object known as Oumuamua a sign of extraterrestrial life? Avi Loeb, chair of the Harvard's astronomy department, isn't surprised that his idea has drawn skepticism. All the same, he notes progress begins with an open mind. This is how science works, said Loeb. We make a conjecture, and if someone else advances another explanation, we'll compare notes, and the next time we see an object of this type, we will hopefully be able to tell the difference. That's the process by which science makes progress. But in July of 2019, an international astronomy team reported in Nature Astronomy that the observations are consistent with a purely natural origin for Oumuamua. The skeptical astronomers admitted, however, that it's not clear just what Oumuamua really is. We put together a strong team of experts in various different areas of work on Oumuamua. This cross-pollination led to the first comprehensive analysis and the best big-picture summary to date of what we know about the object, Knight explained. We tend to assume the physical process we observe here close to home are universal, and we haven't seen anything like Oumuamua in our solar system. This thing is weird and admittedly hard to explain, but that doesn't exclude other natural phenomena that could explain it. But the team was unwilling to conclude that Oumuamua is evidence of ET. Meanwhile, in 2020, another team has found evidence that it's molecular hydrogen ice, a conclusion Loeb disputes. Now, about those naysayers. What strikes an observer of the whole business is this. The talk about extraordinary claims requiring extraordinary evidence, or otherwise misses the point. There is no evidence. We have not found even a single fossil bacterium on a single planet other than Earth. All claims for evidence of intelligent extraterrestrials, whether from Harvard or UFO News, are disputed. All of them, even from Harvard, are murky and iffy at best. The closest parallel to this kind of evidence base is research into ghosts. But that sort of research is not usually defended in popular science venues. It's treated with polite scorn and skepticism at best. Polite? You should read my responses on Twitter. Simply put, we cannot prove that either extraterrestrials or ghosts do not exist. That's because it is very difficult to prove a negative. What's really happening is more like people who have a fully naturalist worldview, nature is all there is, can believe that there are extraterrestrial aliens, but not that there are ghosts. Thus, the absence of reliable evidence for extraterrestrials creates a need for elaborate explanations for why we haven't seen them yet. The absence of reliable evidence for ghosts is treated, by contrast, as the natural outcome of their non-existence. The trouble is, in neither case does the philosophical preference itself amount to anything resembling evidence. It is a preference, period. Then the article concludes with, here at Mind Matters News, we cover science fiction and other thoughts about extraterrestrials because they reflect the nature of human intelligence. Even if it should turn out that no extraterrestrials have ever existed, they are still a powerful testimony to the human imagination. I like it. Interesting.
Yeah.
And it is interesting that they kind of, pit that against each other. Why do we believe in UFOs and give that more credence than ghosts? And you can't prove a negative.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That, and I'm
a negative review. I can prove those because I get a lot of them.
Well, there's that. I also am very interested in the way you say, oh, mama, because it
that is correct pronunciation.
It's very guttural. I'm very into it. So, yeah.
Well, what would you call an alien craft that's a giant phallic thing that's soaring through the universe past our planet in a threatening manner? How about like a war cry?
How about more?
That's very sensual, Tim.
A little bit, yeah.
There's a property for sale that's bound to spook the market. Loftus Hall, Ireland's most haunted house. The asking price, a cool 2.5 million euros, Tim. This is interesting. This might be the first time I've ever, 2.5 million euros is only 2.2 million pounds, which means it's about $22 billion in American money, I believe. Now, you can view the rooms virtually if you're brave enough. The 14th century mansion's reputation as a spine-chilling abode dates back to the mid-1700s, when the devil is said to have visited. Loftus Hall's Ireland's most haunted house has gone on the market for 2.2 million euro. Or pounds, one or the other. The mansion's reputation as a spine-chilling abode dates back to that 1700, when, they say, the devil visited. Now, according to a legend, a dark stranger approached the hall on Wexford's Hook Peninsula during a storm looking for shelter. He was taken in by the Tottenham family, who were living in the hall at the time, and a young lady, Anne Tottenham, fell head over heels for the man. However, one night during a card game, Lady Anne is said to have dropped a card on the floor, and when she bent to retrieve it, she noticed the stranger had cloven hoofs, a sign of the devil. The hall's website says that as soon as he realized what he saw, he shot up through the roof in a ball of flames, leaving Lady Anne in a state of shock from which she never recovered. She spent the rest of her life until her death locked in the hall's tapestry room after allegedly going mad, and her ghost is said to haunt the mansion. The story goes that a local priest was brought in to exorcise the tapestry room, but it never succeeded. The ghost of Lady Anne Tottenham, who allegedly went mad after seeing the devil at Loftus Hall, is said to haunt the property. And the spooky goings-on at Loftus Hall, which was built in 1350 and renovated in the 1870s, apparently those hauntings continue to this day, with the current owner, Adrian Quigley, saying he senses a presence with him, even when he's alone. He told Mail Online Travel, being the custodian of the property, I seem to be the one that the spirits seem least likely to interact with. But there isn't a day at Loftus Hall that I don't feel there is something or someone there with me, even though most days I'm at least half a mile from a living soul. I've met with a lot of people who have had visual and audio experiences here that cannot be explained away. The house had been opened up for visitors to physically explore, but now this experience is a virtual tour via www.loftushall.ie. A portrait of Henry Loftus in one of the corridors. He was the first Loftus to live at the hall in 1666, Tim. 1666. On the virtual tour, visitors can click green dots to hear commentary on the story behind the spooky features. This part of the tour shows what is known as the Devil's Door. It is thought this door that the devil is said to have entered Loftus Hall, one of the abandoned rooms at the hall that visitors can explore on the virtual tour. Mr. Quigley has owned Loftus Hall, which has also been a home for nuns, a school for girls, and a hotel since 2011. After putting the mansion up for sale, he is now seeking and interviewing potential buyers, as he wants to make sure that they will still allow visitors to enjoy the property. For £2.2 million, the new owner will get 63 acres of land, 22 bedrooms, 97 windows. He said, we did have a flurry of initial interest, but due to COVID restrictions, a lot of the interested parties were unable to travel from the U.S. to view the property. Stunning location, Loftus Hall sits on Wexford's Hook Peninsula on 63 acres of land. And the current owner of Loftus Hall, Quigley, is now seeking and interviewing potential buyers for the hall, as he wants to make sure they will still allow visitors to the hall. The house has been opened up to visitors to physically explore, but you can experience it virtual tour now at loftushall.ie. Dave, I'm not going to remember that. Just go to Darkness Radio, click on the news tab, and you'll see this article there so that you can go click on the easy to go links, you lazy sons of bitches, and then you can find the story for yourself. For only €9.99 or €9.99, Tim, or £8.97, you can take a peek at the property's eerie rooms and roam the corridors and click green dots to hear commentary on the history behind these spooky rooms. You can glide virtually along the 120-foot-long servants' corridor, which serves as the backbone of the house. Peek inside the bedroom the devil is said to have stayed in, and see the door where he is thought to have entered Loftus Hall. Then you can explore the tapestry room where Lady Anne is alleged to have been locked up following her descent into insanity. The spooking goings-on at Loftus Hall, which was built in 1350 and renovated in the 1870s, apparently continues today, according to Mr. Quigley. So there you have it, Tim. If you're interested, we'll put that article up so that you can go in and find it and put your, you can go do the virtual tour, or you can purchase Loftus Hall. And if you purchase it and you're a listener of Darkness Radio, we just ask that you change one of the rooms to the Darkness Ballroom or the Darkness Suite.
Yeah,
how about that?
I like that. Yeah.
Just because you heard it here. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Maybe Ireland tour is not what you want. Maybe there's friends of ours, which we have over in Europe, Tim, that wish they could have a virtual paranormal experience here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just like my friend Andy Dufresne said, I can't do Morgan Freeman's voice, get busy living or get busy dying. Living one of best life these days involves more virtual and contactless experiences. With that in mind, the Ohio State Reformatory, famed backdrop for the 1994 film, the classic The Shawshank Redemption, has begun offering virtual tours of its creepy dungeon-like confines. All you need is $5 and a smartphone, tablet, computer, or smart TV to tour the warden's office, darkened hallways, sinister cell blocks, a brutal basement, and an eerie attic where Shawshank Redemption filming took place. A 24-hour all-access code lets viewers enjoy 360-degree views of the 250,000-square-foot prison and 2 museums, providing a similar perspective as if they were visiting in person. Along with the tour, ghosts can virtually do time in the hole, step inside maximum security cells, and wander former prison residences. True tales from former reformatory inmates share what life was like on the inside, and guests can travel virtually through the tunnel that Stephen King's fictional inmate Andy Dufresne used to escape Shawshank and its evil warden Norton. Sponsored through Destination Mansfield, the tourism agency of Richland County in north central Ohio, the virtual tour also lets visitors hear tales of the paranormal from historic prison, which Ghost Hunters report is one of the most haunted sites in the United States. Tours are booking at mrps.org/virtual-tours. You can find more information at destinationmanfield.com or by going to darknessradio.com and clicking on the news tab, and you'll find that story and the other stories that have included videos or links that you really want to see. Because why, Tim? I'm a giver. Don't know if you know that about me.
Yeah, I've heard that about you, yeah.
No, I'm a giver. All right, our final 2 stories of news are upon us, Tim. More eerie sights. No, thanks. I don't want to add this to my home screen. Please stop popping up on my screen. More eerie sights have been captured on camera during a live feed at the paranormally active New Inn in Gloucester. Oh, God. Gloucester. Tim, I know I can say it. My mouth just doesn't want to. The latest footage shows a man staring in through the window at paranormal investigators during a live investigation, which is streamed to the public on Facebook. The Gloucester Paranormal Investigation Services team previously came across a sighting in the same area some years ago when they started investigating the hotel pub. Now, with the ongoing investigations, they're getting to know the spirits which walk around the historic building in Northgate Street. The live feed took place on September 11th this year and started at 10 p.m. and finished around 1 a.m. the following morning. And you can see the spooky apparition circled in the photo below of a screen grab from the live feed. Lead investigator Paul Cowmeadow said, "The night was a bit of a mixed bag with the investigation. We're getting to know the spirits that are at the hotel as well as the locations like the prison. We know there's a chef at the time at the New Inn, and we seems to have come across 3 different men called John." I don't know why I'm reading it all piratey. "One of the men called John is a gatekeeper, which used to reside at the New Inn and is generally picked up by the coffee shop area in the building as it is today. We were told by one of the viewers the next day that we were being watched by a figure. The team are continuing to investigate the location and feel that there are years' worth of investigations to come in the future. They feel they are now establishing relationships with the spirits and are earning trust from the invisible beings." Lead investigator Ed Francis said, "We have seen the image of someone that's looking at us through the window of the main bar, and we're not even aware that it happened at the time. We were in the middle of trying to gauge responses from an entity in the bar area. Ha ha ha." The image shows what we think was a gatekeeper that used to take money from the horse and carriages that came through here in the 1800s. We'll look into the future and further investigations to try to get to know who this could be. We are not sure if it is an intelligence response or residual energy, but it is clear to us that there is a man in a cap as you see the outline of him. All right, well, we're going to put that article up too, Tim, because I'm that guy.
You're that guy, huh?
I'm going to put up that article so people can go take a look at the ghostly man and read it in a piratey voice.
Aww.
Our final story, kind of disheartening.
Okay.
The iconic Arecibo Observatory may be on the brink of collapse after cable failures. Yeah, this is new. This is about 24 hours old at the time of this episode airing. No one was expecting the snap on November 6th as engineers at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico weighed their options for dealing with damage to the facility from a cable failure over the summer. But just as engineers were ready to begin repairs on that secondary cable, which slipped out of its socket in August, they faced a much more serious challenge. One of the main cables unexpectedly snapped, putting the entire facility now at risk. We have seen some individual wire breaks on that particular cable, but we hadn't seen any change for weeks. Francisco Cordova, the director of the observatory, told Space.com. That particular situation was elevated by the engineering team and determined not to be an issue because the capacity of that cable was so much higher than the load that it was taking. That it really shouldn't have been a problem, Cordova said. Certainly now with this failure, we understand that the capacity just not there, and that there has been other degradation. Nestled into the natural basin in the middle of the Puerto Rican jungle, the Arecibo Observatory began science work in 1963 and is the world's second largest radio dish. Scientists have used it to confirm that pulsars are super-dense neutron stars, to discover the first planets beyond our solar system, and to broadcast a message out into the cosmos in hopes of reaching intelligent alien life. We have that recording that they broadcast. Tim, do you want to hear it?
Yes, please, if I could.
Listen to Darkness Radio, now on Stitcher Podcasts and anywhere you get your podcast fix. Darkness Radio, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and special slots on Friday.
Wow.
It's a nice broadcast signal. Thanks for doing that, guys.
Yeah.
It's also Earth's prime sentinel for identifying whether specific asteroids are on path to hit our planet, and it appeared in the blockbuster movies like James Bond's GoldenEye and Contact. Arecibo was designed by a scientist at Cornell University, which operated the facility until 2011 with the National Science Foundation and the observatory's main funder. Facing increasing budget pressure, the NSF gradually phased out its funding, transferring operations first to the university's Space Research Association and then to University of Central Florida. Although the NSF still owns the site, but the last few years have been difficult on the observatory. In 2014, a strong earthquake damaged part of the facility, including a cable that the facility's managers were hoping to replace later this year. In 2017, Hurricane Maria battered Puerto Rico, but mostly spared Arecibo. The observatory's helipad and well water were vital resources for those living near the facility. Outside astronomers had to wait over a week to learn that the observatory was still standing. This year, throughout January, a series of earthquakes, the strongest, a 6.4 temblor, rocked Puerto Rico, and the facility closed for inspection. When the month ended and the earthquakes with it, the Puerto Ricans celebrated the new year afresh, hoping that the worst of the year was over. Abel Mendez, a planetary astrobiologist at the University of Puerto Rico, who regularly brings students to observe at Arecibo, told Space.com, only to face the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic in March. But for the observatory, things got worse. The first cable slipped out of its socket on August 10th at 2:45 a.m. local time. On its way down, a damaged observation facility suspended above the dish, as well as gouging a 100-foot-long gash in the fragile dish, according to a statement from the University of Central Florida, which operates the facility. The situation became more dire on November 6th at 7:39 p.m. when a second cable, this time one of the primary cables, snapped, compromising the structural integrity of the 900-pound platform that looms over the dish, holding the facility's antennas and scientific instruments. Time right now is crucial, Mendez told Space.com. I'm totally scared of what's happening at the observatory I'm so worried about it. Evaluating the situation is also difficult since reaching the suspended platform and the towers that anchor it to its supporting cables is very dangerous. When you have to access the towers, when you have to access the platform, there's a million ways you can remove a failed cable, hoist a new cable, things like that, Cordova said. But when you can't access the attachment points for these cables, that is when the challenge becomes big. On the ground, Cordova said, the damage doesn't look as bad as it really is. You don't see a whole lot of difference when you look at the platform. Certainly you do see a couple of extra cables that are hanging down that shouldn't be. They should really be pointing up, but they're pointing down, Cordova said. This is such a massive structure that even that gets lost in the background of its size of the telescope platform itself. The same is true of the damage the dish has accumulated during the incidents. He said, certainly the dish is fairly damaged, Cordova said, but whenever you look at how big our primary reflector is and you look at what damage is, it also doesn't look like something that's insurmountable. The observatory has put together a suite of options for stabilizing the situation and is waiting for a decision from the National Science Foundation, which owns the facility, about how to proceed. Hopefully in the next couple days, we'll have that decision, Cordova said. Yeesh. So that's in a lot of trouble. Isn't it interesting? Something that's keeping an eye out for approaching flying bodies that could impact Earth is suddenly being taken out. Right after, I think it was a week ago, we talked about the possible destruction of the Earth on my 101st birthday, Tim.
Yeah.
Or if it's just readying us to blind us. Maybe it's coming sooner. Bummer alert.
There have been a couple of stories about asteroids, too, that are coming close to the Earth as well.
Yeah, here we are. We'll be on December 31st, like, woo, we're finally done with 2020. And then start getting hammered.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you're hammered on December 31st anyway. But that's it, folks. I want to encourage you. We have an anniversary show coming up on December 30th or so. What's the date on that? Do you know offhand? Let me check.
I think it's the 30th. Yeah, I think you're right.
31st. Yeah, it'll be the 31st. The last day of the month happens to be a Thursday. And because we're not usually bringing a new episode on Friday the 1st, that'll be a Holzer's episode. On January 31st will be our anniversary episode. And we'd like you to send in emails. What have been some of your favorite aspects of the show over the years? Let us know how long you've listened to the show. Who are your favorite guests and why? You can email those to me at dave@darknessradio.com. Just put in the search or in the reference line, anniversary show highlights. And then I'll put those in a folder and we'll read those and share your thoughts about your favorite memories of Darkness Radio. Or you can call our Voices from Beyond voicemail, and Tim will keep those separated, and we'll play some of those. 651-300-4977 is the Voices from Beyond voicemail. We are back tomorrow, Tim, because you can't keep a couple of good men down.
Well, you can with some duct tape and a little bit of ether and a rag, but...
Oh, that went dark quick. Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow, though. Born Haunted, Nate Michael, our guest here on Darkness Radio. And would you like a nice duct tape story joke?
Yeah.
Before we leave,
sure.
I'll leave everybody with this little tasty nugget. All right, Tim. First of all, please remember to watch Holzer Files tomorrow night. Very powerful episode. That's all I'll say about that. Then watch the after show on my YouTube channel or over on my Facebook page. And for those of you that listen and subscribe here to Darkness Radio, you get to hear that on Friday. But here's your story, Tim, as we go out today. Okay. Leave you with a little giggle. Mm-hmm. So there's an old man sitting on the front porch of his home, sipping on a cup of lemonade, slowly rocking back and forth. And he sees a young boy walking down the road. And in the young boy's arms is a cluster of chicken wire. The old man looks at the boy and says, "Boy, where are you going with that chicken wire?" And the boy says, "Old man, I'm going to go catch me some chickens with this chicken wire." And the old man says, "Boy, that's not how you catch chickens." And the boy says, "Old man, I'm going to take this chicken wire. I'm going to catch me some chickens." A little later on that afternoon, the boy comes walking back up the street with an armful of chickens. The old man shakes his head. Well, a few days later, the boy comes walking down the street, and in his hands, Tim, he's got duct tape. And the old man says, "Hey, boy, where are you going with that there duct tape?" And the boy says, "I'm going to go catch me some ducks, sir." He says, "Boy, you don't catch ducks with duct tape." And the boy again belligerently says, "Sir, I'm going to catch me some ducks with this here duct tape." And he walks off. Later on that afternoon, he comes walking up the street with an arm full of ducks. The old man shakes his head. 2 days later, he sees the boy walking down the street with an arm full of pussy willows, and he says, "Hold on, kid, I'm grabbing my hat. I'm going with you on this one." That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great night. We'll see you here again tomorrow on Darkness Radio.